When viewed from space, you'll notice a glowing white sphere at the southernmost part of Earth. It's a place where, once you arrive, it feels as if you've reached the edge of the world. A land that is no less than paradise, or perhaps something straight out of another realm. It is considered the coldest, most isolated, and most mysterious continent on Earth. It has no official time zone of its own, and in terms of size, it is larger than many of the world's major countries and regions, including the United States, Australia, Europe, the United Kingdom, and India. Yet its population is almost zero. The only people who regularly come here are scientists from nations around the world conducting research in one of the most extreme environments on the planet. On this continent, winds can reach speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour, powerful enough to tear down even the strongest structures like a house of cards. And yet, there are creatures that can survive only here. If they were relocated anywhere else on Earth, they simply wouldn't survive. But that's not all. Antarctica is the only place on Earth whose size nearly doubles during the winter months. Temperatures can plunge to an astonishing -90 degrees Celsius. And according to some historians, humans may have lived here millions of years ago. But over time, this land unleashed such harsh conditions that people were ultimately forced to abandon the continent. This continent is called Antarctica, widely regarded as the most mysterious continent on Earth. But when we took a closer look at this frozen wilderness, surrounded by towering ice-covered mountains and endless stretches of snow, we were left amazed. Because Antarctica's story is not just one of mystery. Hidden beneath its icy blanket lies a breathtaking world of beauty. A world so extraordinary that once you see it, you'll find yourself lost in its frozen landscapes. So stay with us as we embark on this incredible journey together. Antarctica is not just a frozen continent. It is the very edge of the Earth. Located entirely in the southern hemisphere, it is the fifth largest continent in the world, with the South Pole situated at its center. It covers an area of nearly 14 million square kilometers. But what is truly astonishing is that about 98% of this vast landmass is buried beneath a thick sheet of ice. In many places, that ice is between 2 and 4 kilometers thick. This means that if all that ice were removed, an entirely different world would be revealed underneath, a hidden landscape of mountains, valleys, and terrain that humans have never truly seen. If you look at a map, Antarctica is completely surrounded by the Southern Ocean, which separates it from the rest of the world's continents. This is one of the reasons why it is considered one of the most isolated places on Earth. There are no countries here, no borders, and no permanent government. Instead, the entire continent is governed under an international agreement known as the Antarctic Treaty System. According to this treaty, no nation can claim ownership of Antarctica, and the continent may only be used for peaceful purposes and scientific research. That is why you won't find any cities or villages here. The people living in Antarctica are not permanent residents, but temporary visitors. Scientists and researchers from different countries spend a few months at a time in research stations scattered across the continent. During the winter, their numbers drop to around 1,000, while in the summer, the population increases to between 4,000 and 5,000. In other words, Antarctica is a continent where people do not come to settle, they come to learn. But understanding Antarctica only through its silence and ice would be incomplete. It is the coldest continent on Earth, where temperatures have fallen to as low as -90 degrees Celsius, the lowest temperature ever recorded on the planet. In conditions this extreme, even tears can freeze. Winds can reach speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour, and for months at a time the sun never sets, while during other months it never rises. Here, neither time nor weather behaves the way it does anywhere else on Earth. What's even more fascinating is that Antarctica is covered with endless stretches of frozen snow, which is why it is often referred to as an ice desert. One of the biggest reasons for this is that not a single drop of liquid rain has fallen in many parts of the continent for an incredibly long time. That doesn't mean precipitation never occurs. In reality, any moisture freezes before it reaches the surface, turning into snow, a phenomenon commonly known as snowfall. Perhaps the most astonishing fact of all is that this frozen land contains the largest reserve of fresh water on Earth. Nearly 90% of the planet's ice is found right here in Antarctica. If all of this ice were ever to melt, sea levels around the world could rise by nearly 60 meters, permanently submerging many of the world's major cities beneath the ocean. But if you truly want to understand Antarctica, you first need to understand its true identity, and that is its ice. Because here, it is not the land that defines the continent, but the ice itself. Nearly 98% of Antarctica is covered by a massive ice sheet, the largest on Earth. This is no ordinary ice. It is a collection of layers that have accumulated over millions of years, eventually covering almost the entire continent. In many places, the ice is between 2 and 4 kilometers thick, which means that if it were somehow removed, an entirely different world would emerge beneath it. A hidden landscape of mountains, valleys, lakes, and the true face of the land that no human has ever seen with their own eyes. But if you imagine this ice as something frozen and motionless, that is perhaps the biggest misconception of all. This ice is constantly moving, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but continuously, like a giant blanket gradually sliding across the continent. It is this movement that transforms the ice into glaciers, which slowly make their way toward the ocean over time. When these glaciers reach the sea, their edges break away, giving birth to icebergs. Enormous floating mountains of ice that drift into the open ocean. Some of these icebergs are so massive that they can be as large as an entire city. Icebergs such as A76 and A68 are prime examples, having been among the largest floating masses of ice ever recorded. They drift across the ocean, gradually breaking apart, melting away, and eventually disappearing. Yet their formation and destruction remain part of a never-ending natural cycle. And if you think that is the entire story of Antarctica's ice, the hidden world beneath it is even more mysterious. Scientists have discovered subglacial lakes buried deep beneath the ice, lakes that have been completely isolated from sunlight for thousands of years, yet still show signs of life. This discovery is important not only for Antarctica, but for all of humanity, because it helps us understand how life can survive and adapt, even in the most extreme and hostile environments imaginable. The impact of this frozen world extends far beyond Antarctica itself. It plays a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the entire planet. This ice reflects a significant portion of the sun's rays back into space, helping regulate Earth's temperature. It helps control global sea levels and serves as a vital component of the planet's climate system. If this ice undergoes major changes, the effects are felt across the entire world. In other words, Antarctica's ice is not just a frozen layer covering the land. It is a living system, constantly moving, constantly changing, and influencing the future of the entire Earth. But Antarctica's story does not begin with ice. Nor was it always the frozen, silent world we see today. Surprisingly, millions of years ago, this continent looked completely different. Scientists have discovered fossils in Antarctica's rocks that reveal a remarkable past, one where dense forests covered the land, warm winds swept across the landscape, and a variety of birds and animals roamed freely. In other words, the place that now appears to be a world of endless ice and silence was once a thriving, green land full of life. But over time, everything began to change. Slowly, incredibly slowly, yet continuously. Several factors were responsible for this transformation. First, Earth's orbit, the path our planet follows around the Sun, is not perfectly fixed. It undergoes subtle changes over long periods of time, affecting the amount of heat and sunlight that reaches the Earth. At the same time, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, a powerful greenhouse gas, also changed. Millions of years ago, carbon dioxide concentrations were much higher, keeping the planet much warmer and allowing forests to flourish even in regions like Antarctica. But as those levels gradually declined, the Earth began to cool. In addition, Earth's tectonic plates are constantly in motion. These moving plates cause continents to slowly shift their positions over millions of years. Antarctica was no exception. Gradually, it drifted away from its earlier location and moved closer to the South Pole, where sunlight is far less intense and temperatures are dramatically lower. At the same time, cold ocean currents surrounding the continent made the entire region even colder. And then began a transformation that would change everything. As temperatures continued to fall, ice started to accumulate. And as the ice expanded, it reflected more of the sun's rays back into space, causing the planet to lose even more heat. This created a powerful cycle. More ice led to lower temperatures, and lower temperatures led to even more ice. But the question is, how did humans ever reach a place so silent, so dangerous, and so completely isolated from the rest of the world? The discovery of Antarctica was not a single event, but a long and fascinating journey that unfolded over centuries. Ancient maps and writings occasionally mentioned a vast unknown land somewhere in the southern hemisphere. At the time, many believed that a large southern continent had to exist in order to balance the Earth's land masses. But this was nothing more than a theory because no one had ever actually seen it. In the 18th century, scientists and explorers began taking this possibility seriously, and several maritime expeditions were launched in search of this mysterious land. The journey was anything but easy. Uncharted seas, ice-choked waters, and violent winds turned every step of the voyage into a challenge. In the early 19th century, this search finally took a decisive turn. In 1820, humans caught their first glimpse of the frozen land we now know as Antarctica. Credit for this discovery is often given to explorers such as Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen, Edward Bransfield, and Nathaniel Palmer, who sighted parts of the Antarctic coastline during separate expeditions. But simply seeing the continent was not enough. The real challenge was reaching it and surviving there. Ice-covered seas, rapidly changing weather, and deadly cold made Antarctica one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. Yet despite the risks, brave explorers continued pushing forward, determined to get closer to this mysterious world. As the world learned more about Antarctica, several nations attempted to claim parts of it as their own. After all, this was not just a frozen piece of land. It was a region of immense strategic and scientific importance. But this time, history took a different path. Instead of competing through conflict, countries chose to work together. In 1959, the Antarctic Treaty System was signed, officially dedicating Antarctica to peace and scientific research. Under this agreement, no nation can claim sovereignty over the continent. Military activities and mining are prohibited, and Antarctica can only be used for research, and the benefit of humanity. Today, more than 30 countries cooperate under this treaty. Scientists from around the world live and work side by side, sharing data, conducting research, and trying to unlock the secrets hidden within this frozen continent. In a world that appears so harsh, so cold, and almost lifeless, one question naturally comes to mind. Does any life exist here at all? Surprisingly, while Antarctica may look frozen and barren on the surface, it is home to a remarkable variety of life. The creatures most closely associated with this icy continent are penguins, often considered the true residents of Antarctica. Penguins can be found in several parts of the world, but Antarctica and its surrounding regions remain their greatest stronghold. Around 18 species of penguins are found across the southern hemisphere, with the emperor penguin being the largest, reaching heights of nearly 1.5 meters, while some smaller species grow to only about 30 centimeters tall. But the real story of penguins is not their size. It's the extraordinary way they survive. When Antarctica's winter reaches its most brutal stage, the female penguin lays an egg and then heads toward the ocean in search of food. The male is left behind, balancing the egg on his feet and protecting it with the warmth of his body for months. No matter how fierce the blizzards become or how far the temperatures drop, he rarely moves. Because the moment the egg touches the ice, it could freeze and perish almost instantly. After nearly 2 months, the female returns, and only then does the male head to the sea in search of food. It is a remarkable partnership, one that allows life to continue in one of the harshest environments on Earth. As the young penguins grow, they are gathered into groups known as creches, where they remain together for protection while the adults travel to the ocean to feed. And when the weather becomes slightly less severe, these chicks take one of the most important steps of their lives, their first leap into the sea. But a new challenge awaits them there, because beneath the water, predators are already waiting. Penguins are not the only life forms that call Antarctica home. Seals, whales, and tiny creatures known as krill form the backbone of the continent's ecosystem. Krill are so small that they can be difficult to spot, yet they support the entire food chain. From penguins to whales, countless Antarctic species depend on them directly or indirectly for survival. In addition, microscopic organisms such as tardigrades can also be found here. These extraordinary creatures are capable of surviving conditions so extreme that most other forms of life simply cannot endure them. One of the most surprising facts related to human life in Antarctica occurred in 1978, when Argentina sent a pregnant woman to the continent as part of an effort to strengthen its presence there. She became the first woman to give birth in Antarctica. Since then, a total of 9 women have given birth on the continent. Remarkably, neither the mothers nor the children experienced any major complications related to the births, despite one of the harshest environments on Earth surrounding them. Friends, Antarctica is not just a frozen continent, it is the largest laboratory on Earth. This is a place where people do not come merely to observe, they come to understand. Scientists from different countries have been living and working in research stations here for decades. They do not live in comfort. Instead, they endure some of the harshest conditions on the planet, where even daily survival can be a challenge. During the winter months, the darkness, extreme cold, and isolation become so intense that contact with the outside world is almost completely cut off for months at a time. Yet these scientists remain here because Antarctica provides answers that cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. Hidden within and beneath this frozen land are secrets that have been preserved for millions of years. Scientists use a technique known as ice coring, in which long cylindrical samples are drilled out from deep within the ice sheet. Trapped inside these layers of ice are tiny bubbles of ancient air, preserved for thousands and sometimes millions of years. By studying them, scientists can determine what Earth's temperature was like in the distant past, which gases existed in the atmosphere, and how the climate has changed over time. In a way, Antarctica holds a frozen record of our planet's history. And it doesn't just help us understand Earth, it also helps us understand space. The atmosphere here is so clean that moisture and dust are almost non-existent. As a result, telescopes located in Antarctica can observe the universe with extraordinary clarity. Scientists have used this unique environment to explore some of the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. In fact, the ability to make incredibly precise astronomical observations has played an important role in advancing our understanding of phenomena such as black holes and the distant universe. Strict environmental rules are also enforced across Antarctica. Any form of pollution is strictly prohibited. Even the waste generated by research stations is carefully collected and transported out of the continent to preserve its pristine environment. Scientists understand that if Antarctica changes, the consequences will not remain confined to this frozen land. They will affect the entire world. Antarctica is often described as a shared treasure of humanity. While scientific communities exist here, reaching them is possible only by aircraft. Yet surprisingly, you will not find traditional airports anywhere on the continent. The main reason is simple. Because of the vast ice sheet, it is impossible to build and maintain conventional concrete runways. Instead, the ice itself is compacted and smoothed using heavy equipment, creating runways where aircraft can safely land. That is why pilots flying to Antarctica undergo specialized training to prepare for these challenging landings. To prevent aircraft wheels from sinking into the ice, specially designed planes are often used. Instead of conventional landing gear, many are equipped with ski landing systems. These skis allow the aircraft to glide across the frozen surface, almost floating over the ice, before eventually coming to a stop. Now, when it comes to Antarctica's geography, at first glance it appears to be nothing more than a vast expanse of white. But the more you learn about it, the clearer it becomes that this continent is not just a field of ice, it's an entire world of its own. There are regions where ice stretches all the way to the ocean, while in other places, towering mountain ranges rise through the frozen landscape. Among the most remarkable of these is the Transantarctic mountain range, which effectively divides the continent into two major regions. Stretching for thousands of kilometers, these mountains are so massive that in many places even Antarctica's thick ice sheet cannot completely cover them. Antarctica is also home to enormous ice shelves, which are essentially massive floating platforms of ice. These form when glaciers flow out into the ocean and begin to float on the sea's surface. Some of these ice shelves are so large that they rival the size of small countries. Over time, they slowly expand across the ocean, and from time to time, huge sections break away. These detached pieces eventually become icebergs that drift across the sea. And if you think Antarctica is nothing but ice and cold, there's another astonishing feature hidden within this frozen world. Volcanoes. Mount Erebus, one of the southernmost active volcanoes on Earth, continues to erupt and remain active in the heart of Antarctica. It creates a breathtaking scene where fire and ice exist side by side, making it one of the most unique landscapes anywhere on the planet. Some regions of Antarctica are even referred to as ice deserts, because rainfall is almost non-existent. The continent is so cold and dry that very little moisture exists in the air. As a result, the environment feels much like a desert. The only difference is that instead of sand, the landscape is covered in ice. You may find this surprising, but Antarctica is also believed to hold significant mineral resources. Scientists estimate that beneath its vast ice sheets, there may be deposits of copper, gold, iron, petroleum, natural gas, and several other valuable minerals waiting to be discovered. In the end, there is one thing worth remembering. Antarctica is not just a distant and frozen place. It is a warning. The water locked within its ice is considered some of the purest fresh water on Earth. Yet today, that very ice is slowly melting, and this pristine water is flowing into the oceans. In the process, we are not only losing a natural resource, but also putting the balance of our future at risk. Rising temperatures and global warming have now reached even this remote and untouched continent. A place once thought to be completely protected is now feeling the effects of change. And if this trend continues, the consequences will not remain limited to Antarctica. Sea levels will continue to rise, coastal cities will face increasing danger, and the entire world will move toward a transformation that will not be easy to manage. Antarctica teaches us an important lesson, that humanity cannot conquer nature. The only way forward is to understand it, respect it, and live in balance with it. And when you think about this continent, it stops being just a travel destination. It becomes an experience, one that reminds you how vast nature truly is and how small we are in comparison. Reaching Antarctica is not easy. The journey is challenging and demanding. But perhaps that is exactly what makes it so special, because it doesn't just show you a place, it forces you to think. Friends, Antarctica leaves us with a question. Will we be able to protect this world, or will we simply stand by and watch it disappear? And what do you think? Could there really be hidden secrets buried beneath Antarctica's massive ice sheet that humanity still knows nothing about? Could vast mineral reserves be waiting to be discovered beneath the frozen surface? And if you had the opportunity, would you like to visit this icy continent yourself? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video and share it as much as possible. Your support helps us continue creating content like this. And for more travel documentaries and fascinating journeys around the world, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.